Yep, we are going to be talking about the This is Rio de Janeiro mod for Counter-Strike Source. It's a fun mod. It's not something I usually try. I mostly play Condition Zero or Classic Offensive, though I have played around 1.6 and Global Offensive, and a bit of Counter-Strike 2 before realizing I didn't really like it. But This is Rio de Janeiro is like a complete upending of Source. It's not like Opposing Force, Counter-Strike Opposing Force, that mod, where it's a huge reskin, but it still plays the same way outside of the different maps. This has weaponry balances and then everything. It's honestly like a different game at times. The pacing's different, the combat feels different. Feels a little more arcadey at times, but also a little more punishing. You go down pretty quickly, as do your enemies. And it's not perfect, but it's definitely unique, and I like the attempts to recontextualize Counter-Strike Source in the favelas and other locations of Brazil where crime's a hotspot. Let's get right down to it. Counter-Strike, This is Rio de Janeiro. It's a mod that takes Counter-Strike Source and plops it into the war between criminals and cops all around locations of Brazil, from Rio de Janeiro to other places, even some places outside of Brazil, including a port of the Miami map from Counter-Strike Condition Zero. You're going to be going around slums and favelas, construction sites, big cities, neighborhoods and jungles, and all sorts of locations in the mod's levels, where you're going to be doing typical Counter-Strike related objectives. In the CS maps, the cops are trying to rescue hostages from the criminals, and in DE maps, the cops are protecting sites from the criminals who are planting C4 explosives there. And there are also DM maps, which are basically just team versus team death matches with no objective outside of eliminating the enemy team. And a couple training levels to give you a feel for the unique mechanics and weapons featured here. Because like I said at the start, this isn't just a reskin mod. Sure, there are some new designs for the terrorists and counter-terrorists and the hostages, but it goes beyond that. The weapons, everything, it feels different. Everything's faster paced. Biggest thing you'll notice. You don't really feel as much of the slowdown from carrying weapons compared to Counter-Strike Source or the other games. I'm not even sure if you move faster with a knife. I've messed around with different weapons and carrying them, and I didn't really notice a huge difference. So you move quickly, but there are also different things going on to keep you from just sprinting around and taking enemies down one after another. There's view bob and motion blur going on, different suppression effects that come from being shot at and wounded, and the guns are a highlight in of themselves, because their rebalance is not just to how they operate, but which faction gets what. Some exclusives exist for factions that you wouldn't expect, and there are other action-exclusive weapons that have been given to both sides now. The bolt-action snipers are now cop-exclusive, and the machine gun, the M249, is also cop-exclusive. The AK is now available for both sides. And to top this off, the FAMAS is also available for both sides. You're also going to see the guns behave totally differently, for the most part. Even going down to the basic pistols. The cop starter pistol instead of the USP is a Beretta 92, and the criminal starting pistol is an fully automatic Glock. The pistol selection only gets crazier from there with a P320, a 3057 Magnum, another Beretta, though this one is designed to be more armor-piercing, and a set of akimbo USP matches. The SMGs also get a huge overhaul, including a Micro Uzi, an MP7, FAME SAF, and a lot else. The shotguns feel like the only thing that's kind of the same in terms of the balancing. Like, the revolver replacing the Desert Eagle. It has 2 less shots, but it's still pretty powerful, and it reloads pretty quickly too. The Akimbo pistols have 26 max shots instead of 30. All guns have a lot more reserve ammo, and you don't need to buy reserve ammo, unlike in the older Counter-Strike games. The slowdown for rifles and everything else is much less noticeable, to the point where I was debating for a while whether it actually existed. And the hugest changes are to the rifles. The Scout is a beast of a gun. You can actually take down targets with body shots. It's pretty impressive. The SG-552 and the AUG are completely revamped to a Heckler & Co. G3 and an FAL that fires slower by default, but when you zoom in, they'll be set to full auto and they'll shoot quicker, giving you sort of this feeling of trading off the peripheral vision for a faster rate of fire. And since they both deal higher damage, you can rain down a bunch of high-powered shots on enemies. The Galil is playable for both sides and is turned into a paratrooper FAL that doesn't have that full auto option and reloads slower but still deals high damage. The FAMAS is a customized AR-15 that can be set to burst fire mode. M4A1's basically the same with the AK, just with slightly different models and such. And the auto snipers are turned into an AR-10 and a scoped FAL, but are otherwise behaving similarly. This forces you to strategize and to choose different weapons based on necessity. The big thing is that a lot of weapons are much more viable than they would normally be in Counter-Strike Source. As much as I love the original Counter-Strike gameplay, I'll admit that I'm not crazy about how many weapons stop being viable after the early rounds. But here, you can go to town, pick out whatever guns you want, and you can still hold your own. There were several rounds where, due to being an eco buy, I basically had to grab Kevlar and a helmet and a full auto Glock, and I was still able to scrounge a few kills and pick up a better gun to use from there. That's to say nothing of the SMGs, which have a lot more viability, especially the SAF and the MP5. The accuracy for guns is a lot better. It's not like where you can just run and gun and have perfect accuracy, but moving when firing is a lot more viable. Sure, you can get off really accurate shots by crouching and controlling what you fire, but you can be a lot more reactive on the move. You don't have to worry about missing a shot because you were moving one moment and not standing still while you were firing it. You can land hits as long as you're lining things up correctly and you're not just holding down the trigger, because there's still spray patterns and such. In that sense, it is more arcadey, because you don't have to compensate as much for recoil, for spray patterns, even if they do exist. But guns are also a lot more damaging. You go down quickly, very quickly, even more so than the regular Counter-Strike. I don't know if it's because the accuracy boosts, I don't know if it's because of the movement or what, but going out into an open street, if you don't know if enemies are there or not, is like a death trap. There are times that I would often just let a bot go first to see if he would draw enemy fire, just sort of sacrificing him to get a better view of which enemies might be camped out in certain areas. It's all map dependent, of course. There are some that are real close quarter, some that are more stretched out, and some that are more vertical, where there are high points and low points. One team's climbing up a hill, another team is descending, and the strategies have to be built based around that. The maps are engaging, and for the most part, they actually complement the changes brought on by the weapon rebalances and movement rebalances. I like how you can find these real swanky villas by the beach, where one team starts at the waterfront and another team starts at the entrance to the manor. And meanwhile, there are also other maps where you're just in these absolutely impoverished slums, and you're climbing through people's living rooms and apartments and things like that, having gunfights where people would normally be having breakfast. in addition to the stuff on like construction sites or bunkers or things like that. It's crazy, and the variety is really cool. It also brings some sobering aspects to the setting, reminding you that, yeah, this stuff kind of happens in reality. That these clashes between police and criminals in Brazil can turn this deadly, even in populated areas. It's not like a heavy-handed social commentary or anything, but it's one of those things that after the fighting stopped and the newly recorded death screams finally come to a close, you can sit back and realize, man, I just had a shootout where someone would be eating their nut and honey in the morning. Well, it puts things in perspective, and I appreciate the subtle world building that the modders did. Now granted, not every map was made by the modders. There are quite a few that came from other sources, some that were recontextualized to be set in Brazil, even though, like, you can tell that they were built off the like, City 17 aesthetics or like North American aesthetics, but they still work within the Brazilian setting, because I mean, again, places like Rio, they are still huge cities with skyscrapers and everything else, so having a well-built urban map makes perfect sense. Same as having one that's more rural set out in the jungle. These two, they don't clash, they feel like natural complements to each other, just because of how diverse of a location Brazil is. I like the representation it brings, a sort of nice representation, where you get to see things for how they are, so to speak, even within a video game. It shows the beautiful aspects of Brazil as well as the seedier parts, even with some, what I'm assuming is local music, that you can hear in some of the maps. I like there's a favela map that has a radio playing on the criminal side. The song just gets stuck in my head every time I play it, I don't know why. I had a lot of fun with This is Rio de Janeiro. I enjoyed the maps, even if there are some that require you to restart the level because they need to generate nav meshes. And there are some maps, I think a handful, that just flat out crashed for me. But given the sheer number of maps included with the mod, I'd say it's a fair trade. You're getting a ton for what it's worth. I mean, just pruning out the few that don't work and then restarting the ones that need a nav mesh generated is easy. But there are some issues with the mod itself. The most pressing one, I'd say, are the character models. Not because the main four look bad, they look great, and you can still tell them apart real easily, so you know who's a cop, who's a criminal. But the issue is there are a ton of other options that they sound nice, but you can't pick them. If you pick them, you won't be able to load into a team, despite them always being present when you start a match. I don't know if they're bugged or if they're still works in progress or what, but you'll see a ton of options beyond the typical 4 models per team. And if you select any of them, you won't be able to play until you reconnect and disconnect. I guess that's still a work in progress feature. I hope they're able to sort that out, because having some more models would be cool as long as they still fit recognizability, where the criminals have flashier colors and the cops have like subdued blue uniforms. The guns also have some balancing problems. I've noticed that the criminals almost always win pistol rounds. The Glock is just too good for its own good. Like, the other pistols are good and all, but the Glock just cleans house. It is insane how powerful it is. Like, a 30-round mag, full auto, good accuracy, good damage. You don't even need to set it to burst to make sure you're landing hits. It just tears through enemies, whether they have armor or not. The only way to really stop that is to have a more powerful weapon or to get the drop on a Glock user. And granted, the Beretta for the cops, it's still usable, it's still viable, you can silence it, you can still deal good damage, land good shots, whether it has a suppressor on or not. But in a 1v1, the Glock just demolishes, and the worst part is, the Ts don't even need to buy any upgrades to it. They can grab some flashbangs, some armor, and a pistol round. Like I said, just grab it for a regular round with Kevlar and a vest and a helmet if they're low on cash. I'd say it's not a case of the other pistols need to be buffed. I'd say the Glock just needs to be nerfed. The choices in weapons being limited is also kind of strange. I guess it's kind of hard to tell the difference between the paratrooper FAL and the regular FAL unless you get really used to the game. Same goes for why some of the submachine guns are locked to the cop side. Like, I get why the cops would have the bolt-action rifles. They're going for precision shots, whereas the criminals are just trying to get off as many bullets as possible to take down the cops. It makes sense that they would try to be marksmen and all that. But what I don't get is why the P90 is replaced with this slow-firing UMP-45 that's really expensive. I mean, it's good in terms of damage and such, but I didn't really notice a significant reason to use it over, like, the other guns in that class, or any of the rifles, despite its price. It was a strange choice to replace it with, since there is a UMP-45 slot that's taken by the SAF, and that's a really fun gun to use. But those, I'd say, are my issues with it. You can tell I don't have that many. I played the mod a lot. The bots kicked my ass left and right, especially compared to Condition Zero's bots, but it was all in good fun. The moments I was able to come out on top over them really shined. It felt like I was playing a non-modded version of Ready or Not. The one where the bots just whip around and dome you with the slightest feeling of your aura. You know, that sort of sensation. I mean, you're even playing as a cop, so it makes it perfect. I'd highly recommend giving this Rio de Janeiro a shot. And I want to commend the modders for coming up with a cool concept for a Counter-Strike mod. One that still makes it feel very much like Counter-Strike, just put in a different setting. It's like if you're a fan of the setting of Max Payne 3 or Elite Squad or any other Brazilian crime-related media, I feel like this would check a lot of boxes. And I'd say that it's a good, enjoyable mod. I don't know if multiplayer really works with it. It seems connected to the base Counter-Strike source experience, but it comes with full bot support. And the bots play very well, very aggressively. There are a few maps that'll get stuck on the geometry, but that's not that big of an issue. And they will absolutely cream you if you aren't prepared for a good fight with them. And it does make triumphing over the bots all the more satisfying. I'm looking forward to the updates. I'm hoping that they'll maybe do some tweaks to weapon balance, especially the Glock, and maybe fix whatever issues going on with the extra models. Whether they need to be re-enabled or added, I'm not sure. But I wish them all the best, because they made something that I had a lot of fun playing different matches on. Thanks for watching. Hope you guys give the mod a shot. Take care.